GTA has always been a world that runs on its own, often twisted rules, but there are certain things that at first seemed completely absurd, downright impossible to wrap your head around, and yet over time, we accepted them as if they were completely normal. I mean, surely more than one of us fell off our chair when it turned out that some auto shop out in the middle of nowhere is somehow able to make the FBI, who are chasing us for multiple murders, completely forget that they were ever after us for anything at all. And over time, we got fully used to it. Now, we walk out into the street, some ballers guy starts yelling at us, so we bam, grab him by the scruff, of course right in front of the cops, and what happens next? Well, obviously, we hop over to the pay and spray real quick to shake off the tail, and then we get right back to business. Or the fact that cars explode when they flip onto their roof. That's just completely out of this world. What is that supposed to be? Is there some kind of detonation button mounted up on the roof that gets activated after touching the asphalt for a few seconds, or what? And yeah, I know these mechanics are obviously created to make things simpler, more fun, and to explain certain elements in the game, so there's at least some kind of logic and continuity. Still, the fact remains that if you dig into the topic and start paying attention to how many absurd things we run into at every step in the GTA world, well, there's definitely plenty to laugh about. And so, here's another perfect example, the payouts in some missions. Let's take a mission from the very start of GTA 3, the one we do for Luigi called Luigi's Girls. At this point, Claude is basically some totally random guy who just barely got into the mafia thanks to knowing 8-Ball. And the fact alone that Luigi even agreed to give Claude a job, like pick up a girl and bring her over just to see if he's any good, that's already like charity work. And when you also look at the fact that the distance to cover was super short and there were literally 0 obstacles, paying him a whole $1.5 grand for that is just a circus. Like, I honestly don't know how that club or the entire mafia didn't go bankrupt if they were paying that generously for basically being a regular taxi driver. I mean, for that $1,500, Claude could have straight up rented himself a nice pretty big studio apartment on Staunton back then. You know, kind of going off real-world Manhattan prices in New York at that time. And just for contrast, the main character of GTA Chinatown Wars, near the end of the game, kills 2 very important triad members who turn out to be rats. In those missions, Huang takes out at least 50 fully armed-to-the-teeth bodyguards, risks his life to the absolute max, and while Claude got $1.5 grand for driving that redheaded chick a couple hundred meters, Huang didn't get a single penny for those 2 murders. Now, that couldn't make sense in any universe. And that's still nothing, cause GTA is full of missions like The Party from GTA Vice City. In that one, Tommy does recon at Cortez's party. There's no client for this. Tommy's doing it for himself and Ken to find the people who stole the Forelli's coke, the same Forellis Tommy and Ken are working for. Ken and Tommy gotta track it down, cause if they don't, Sonny's gonna rip their balls off. Anyway, Tommy's doing this job exactly like I said, for himself and Ken. So where those dollars at the end of the quest suddenly come from, that's a mystery I don't think anyone can solve. So these amounts, Rockstar probably seriously sets them during a session on the toilet. Same deal goes for prices of all kinds of stuff. Vice City here just completely breaks the system. The biggest absurdity is El Swanko Casas Villa, for which we'll shell out $8,000. For a place like that back then in Miami, in that location, people were paying hundreds of thousands of dollars. To snag such a gem for $8 grand, you'd probably have to buy it from some junkie who just shot up another dose. And that's assuming there was a big hurricane threat looming. Moving on, let's take the Malibu Club. A popular nightclub with all the equipment, neon lights, reputation, and everything. But in the game, it cost $120,000, and on the mobile version, half that. The price is way too low, like seriously undervalued, even for those times. A club with that reputation in that spot near the beach, fully equipped, should cost at least several times that. Next up, the entire film studio for $60,000. Nowadays, studios like that sell for tens of millions of dollars. Even back then, the price would easily exceed $1 million, especially since Interglobal Studios wasn't some small setup. There was equipment, many hangars, different sets, props, spotlights, literally everything. These prices are seriously a mystery. And another mystery, which for us is practically unsolvable, is a certain person, some supplier from a charity foundation for gangsters, who drives around the worlds of various GTA parts and leaves weapons in some random places, and of course regularly restocks supplies shortly after one of the protagonists picks up a gun from a given spot. What probably makes the most sense in this mechanic is that dildo under the shower at the police station. Just as much sense makes this very common lawlessness in terms of legal jobs. Take, for example, firefighter missions. In real life, at least months of education, training, psychological tests, procedures, preferably no criminal record, and so on and so forth. But here, it's enough for CJ to steal a fire truck off the street from other firefighters in action, and boom, he becomes a firefighter now. Plus, he has a badass contract, because at any moment, even while putting out a fire, he can decide he doesn't give a damn and quit the job. And of course, the same applies to being a paramedic, cop, or train or bus driver. The police especially are a total circus. Not only do they hire CJ without any questions, pay him for killing criminals instead of arresting them, which is also pretty funny, but then chase CJ themselves for fighting that very crime. Basically, it's a joke. And of course, the protagonists are able to do all this endlessly without limit. So no sleep, no food, with underwear full of crap, obviously without washing. If we want, we can basically complete the whole storyline without sleeping, eating, or washing our armpits. And of course, all the while, constantly sprinting, jumping, climbing, and riding a mountain bike at 100 kilometers per hour. Cool that in San Andreas, at least CJ can get hungry from time to time. Something at least. Unlimited stamina applies not only to the protagonists, but also to their phones, of course. Not only do the phone's batteries get energy from space, but the phones themselves never lose service. I once verified it, and indeed, in some places, Nico's phone signal bars sometimes drop, but only just for show. After all, we can sail out to the middle of the ocean and then call our cousin to arrange a bowling game. As a fun fact, we found in the internet that supposedly in GTA Online, the phone signal represents the quality of our connection to the server, which is super interesting, but we don't really know how to verify it, so it's hard to say whether it's true or not. Since pay and spray was mentioned, we can't skip another great mechanic of that sort. It's about changing clothes. Of course, it doesn't apply to every part of the game, but whether it's Vice City, San Andreas, LCS, or VCS, well, there we deal with it. Changing clothes causes loss of wanted stars. Luckily, in Vice City and the Stories games, they showed some restraint, because changing clothes there can only remove a maximum of 2 wanted stars. But in San Andreas, just changing your undershirt or pants can shake off hordes of military or other SWAT guys from your neck. Overall, the intelligence of law enforcement is something hard to describe. Walking around with an RPG in hand or doing demolition derby on the streets is something that doesn't bother the cops at all. It's also great that nobody collects any files on us. After all those crimes and arrests, no one still sniffs after us. No one has our fingerprints or even a mugshot. The game also heavily simplifies the mechanic of looting from dead enemies. In many games, the looting mechanic looks like this. After dealing with an enemy, you have to approach them and press some interaction button. Wait a moment and only then see what the enemy had, so you can take what you need. Here, when we kill some enemy, or generally some NPC, we have a mechanic similar to when we as kids smashed a piggy bank, looking at how much money we managed to gather over the year. We must not forget the tolerance of pedestrians in certain situations. In the world of GTA, Uber or other taxis, they'd all go bankrupt. In GTA, it's enough to jump on some dude's roof and you're riding around the city. The guy, or in our case, a lady, doesn't care that she's driving some guy from the ghetto with a big gun in his hand. And our hero, well, he should get a job in a circus because with such balance, he'd probably make quite a career there. Another thing, of course, comes from resource saving, but that doesn't change the fact it's also absurd. Especially in the oldest parts. We have this where every few seconds, walking on the sidewalk or driving on the street, we run into duplicates of the pedestrian we passed 15 seconds ago. Sometimes you even see 5 of the same NPCs in one place. Also, every so often, we hear the same dialogues, including probably our favorite, which is "In the Navy" from GTA 3.
In the Navy. That's my art. In the Navy.
Just like with "In the Navy" from GTA 3, we love the way cars are acquired in the GTA series. You pick a ride, walk up to it, throw the girl out with a punch, and the car is yours. Well, if some cop notices it, you drive into the pay and spray and problem solved. The car is yours. The whole mechanic of acquiring cars is so absurd that it basically breaks all the storylines. You understand, someone like Nico, instead of working for Vlad or some other Faustino for a few $100, could theoretically just steal a few Turismos or Banshees from the street, sell them to some Enrique in Bohan, repeat the process a couple more times, and bam, the American dream would become reality. Absolutely fitting to today's episode is also the HP system in GTA, which works in a totally unrealistic way. Having 1 HP or 200 HP makes absolutely no difference. The game doesn't care if you got shot in the leg, broke your neck falling from a height, or have burns on your skin from running through big fires. The protagonist is either fully functional or dead, and there's absolutely nothing in between. The bulletproof vest is probably more like a bulletproof suit that spreads over every millimeter of the protagonist's body, because the game doesn't care if you get shot in the torso, the area the vest protects, or in the head. So you can torture every protagonist as much as you want, and nothing will happen as long as you keep HP at a value equal to or higher than 1. And actually, even if a tank runs over you or a grenade explodes, the medics will put you back together in the hospital. And of course, when they finally release us from that hospital, it turns out they didn't do any searches before all those operations, because we keep all the equipment that somehow we were able to carry before ending up on the operating table. Because what normal hospital wouldn't report that they found 50 grenades and a flamethrower or rocket launcher on a patient? Of course, like all the previous mechanics, this one is also great, but still, the fact that we carry so much weaponry and ammo on a belt around our pants, which would barely fit in an army weapons magazine, is quite questionable. Not even considering how the protagonist with such a load can sprint, jump, climb, and do anything at all, and how they managed to hide it so well where it supposedly fits. That's probably something only Candy could achieve. Also really cool are those mechanics related to the protagonist's buddies who can hook us up with stuff. We call Jacob and he shows up right away with gear worth as much as Bruce Springsteen's estate in Colts Neck, New Jersey. Then we call Packy and he soon drops off a bomb for us in an alley. Or in Ballad, we ring up our good homie and he brings us a SWAT tank. Imagine such an operation in real life. You wake up in the morning and think, hey, it'd be cool to cause some chaos in the city. You call your buddy John and he brings a tank to your house. If my lady saw that, I wouldn't get lunch until autumn. Of course, all this is just a fraction of the absurdities we've gotten used to in the GTA series. We could list all those wonders endlessly. Barbers who can conjure an awesome haircut on a bald head in 3 seconds. Jumping off a skyscraper in a car or in a motorcycle onto a flat surface, which should break all your bones, but does nothing. Stealing an FBI helicopter and flying it like the protagonist passed hundreds of special training courses, breaking into every house in the neighborhood in one night. The police watching us idly as we drive 300 kilometers through the city in a Turismo, doing absolutely nothing to even give us a ticket. Or Armando pushing some cheap drugs on the street, but at the same time having military-grade equipment he can deliver to us wholesale at any time. Of course, I'll repeat once again, these mechanics are seriously awesome, but it doesn't change the fact that they're funny. After all, what would it be like if the police didn't recognize criminals who changed, for example, their pants or repainted their car at the paint shop? That's all from me for today. Thanks for watching, and remember to like and subscribe. Take care and see you later.